Something is very wrong behind these crumbling walls and rusted doors. Strange footsteps echo in dark corridors, and unseen figures watch from corners drenched in shadows. Each abandoned building holds secrets far too horrifying to forget. Keep watching if you dare, because these encounters are not just stories. They're reminders that some places never truly die. Grimsley State Hospital stood at the end of a twisted, overgrown road. Most of its windows were broken, and vines snaked through every crack in the concrete walls. Long ago, people said it was a place of healing for people with troubled minds. Later, rumors hinted at cruel experiments and patients never released. Now it towered in lonely silence, waiting for anyone foolish enough to explore its dark halls. Carl was that fool, and he knew it. He had heard the stories from local kids. They spoke in hushed voices of strange sobbing and flickering lights. He tried to act brave, wearing thick boots and carrying a small flashlight. Even so, his heart thumped in his chest when he finally pushed open the main door. Dust swirled in the stale air, and every step felt like a slow march into the unknown. A long corridor stretched before him, lined with doors that dangled from rusty hinges. Some were locked tight, while others stood open to reveal tattered patient beds and peeling wallpaper. Faded medical posters clung to the walls, their words too scratched up to read. The overhead lights were gone, leaving only the weak glow of Carl's flashlight to guide him. Each breath felt damp and heavy, and it smelled like old mold mixed with something bitter he couldn't name. He passed a sign that read "Surgery Ward" in chipped paint. His curiosity told him to peek inside. Rows of empty gurneys stood in the gloom. The metal rails were dotted with dark stains that made him uneasy. He tried to keep his mind blank, but an image formed of doctors working in secret, bending over screaming patients. Shaking off these thoughts, he decided to move on. Each door in that hospital felt like it might open to a new horror. Farther down the corridor, he saw the faintest flicker of light. It seemed impossible, because electricity hadn't worked there for years. He paused, debating whether to continue. Curiosity won out. Carl trudged forward, his pulse hammering at his temples. The flicker led him to a large room once used for group therapy. He recognized dusty chairs arranged in a circle, their cushions ripped open as if by claws. In the center stood an old television set, flickering with static. No power lines connected it. It was just there, glowing like a specter. Carl stepped closer, feeling his body tense with every movement. The television screen crackled, and for a split second, he thought he saw a face. It was only an outline, but it grinned like it knew he was watching. His flashlight wavered. He tapped the TV's side, hoping it would simply blink off. The screen only grew brighter, flooding the room with an unnatural glow that made the shadows stretch long across the walls. A sudden moan echoed from the hallway. It sounded like a person in deep pain, maybe even calling for help. Carl's heart stuttered. He thought of fleeing, but the moan came again, and it tugged at his conscience. He couldn't just leave if someone was truly hurt. Against his better judgment, he followed the sound. Step by step, he made his way down a side corridor he had barely noticed. Wheelchairs and hospital carts were piled to the sides, forming a narrow path. The moans grew louder, filling his ears with a shaky, trembling tone. He stopped at a door marked "Patient Records." The sign hung crookedly, and the door itself was splintered from top to bottom. On the other side, the moaning changed to frantic whispers. Carl pressed his ear against the wood, straining to catch the words. It was too muffled to understand. He gathered his courage and pushed the door open. His flashlight beam shook across rows of file cabinets. Papers were tossed all over the floor. The air felt colder than any other room. In the corner, a shape crouched with its back turned. The figure rocked slightly, letting out a soft whimper. Carl's voice trembled as he tried to speak. He only managed a weak greeting. The figure stopped moving. Slowly, it turned its head. Pale eyes reflected the flashlight like an animal's. Its mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then it stood up, revealing limbs that were far too thin. Its skin seemed grayish, stretched over bones. Carl backed away, his instincts screaming at him to run. He stumbled, dropping the flashlight. It rolled under a cabinet, plunging the room into near darkness. The shape hissed, taking a halting step forward. Carl felt for the flashlight desperately, but his fingers only touched scattered papers. The figure lunged with a rattling breath. Carl scrambled, feeling his shoe nudge the flashlight. At last, he gripped the handle and flicked the light upward. A beam flashed on the creature's face. No, not a face. It was closer to a skull with skin pulled tight. Its teeth chattered like it was freezing. Carl bolted from the room. He sprinted down the hallway, ignoring the sharp pain in his side. The moans and whispers followed him, echoing through the corridors. Doors slammed on their own, one after another, as if trying to trap him inside. Somehow, he found his way back to the main entrance. He shoved the heavy door open with a desperate cry and burst into the night air. Only when he stood on the cracked asphalt outside did he notice the deep scratches along his arm. For a long moment, he stared at the hospital's silent facade. Its broken windows stared back like hollow eyes. Inside, the moaning had stopped. There was nothing but the sound of wind through the broken glass. Carl never shared the full truth of what he saw. He told friends he got lost and cut himself on broken debris. But sometimes in the quiet hours of the night, he thought he heard that rattling breath just outside his bedroom door. And he would remember those pale eyes in the darkness, reminding him that some buildings never let you go. Tucked away in a forgotten part of town, an old theater sat in the middle of a dense forest. Ivy draped the roof, and moss crept across the once grand entrance. People said the place had been closed for decades, its final show canceled due to a mysterious fire. Though the outside looked spooky enough, the true horror lived inside, where the stage lights had gone dark but something else had come alive. Monica, a budding photographer, learned about the theater from a friend. She was always on the hunt for strange and beautiful scenes. Abandoned buildings were her favorite spots. She liked the way time seemed frozen in peeling walls and broken furniture. She packed her camera and set out one morning, determined to capture the perfect shot of the old Woodland Theater's dusty stage. The entrance doors were barred with a heavy chain, but someone had cut it long ago, leaving it easy to push open. Monica slipped inside and found herself in a dim lobby. Torn red carpets lined the floor, and the smell of mildew hung thick in the air. The ticket booth had shattered glass, and bits of old posters were plastered to the walls. She clicked on a flashlight, stepping carefully over piles of debris. The main auditorium was larger than she expected. Rows of plush seats stretched into the shadows, and a massive stage rose at the front. Hanging overhead was a huge chandelier, its crystals coated in grime. A few beams of sunlight poked through holes in the roof, creating ghostly spotlights on the dusty floor. Monica set her camera to capture the eerie atmosphere, snapping shot after shot. She felt a small thrill at the silence. It was like stepping into a world paused in time. Her footsteps echoed as she moved down the center aisle. She pictured elegant plays performed in front of cheering crowds. She wondered why the building had been left to rot. She had read rumors online, a tragic accident, missing persons, or perhaps a haunting that drove people away. She dismissed these stories as she set up her tripod. Fear only existed if you believed in it. At least, that's what she told herself. She aimed her camera at the stage, trying to frame the chandelier overhead. Just as she clicked, she noticed something in the corner of her view. A figure, barely visible. She paused, heart pumping, but told herself it was just her imagination. Yet a strange feeling settled in her stomach. It felt like she was being watched. She swung the camera around, scanning the seats. Only row after row of silent chairs. The stage remained empty. She decided to explore backstage, where old costumes and set pieces might be stored. The hallway behind the curtains was narrow, lined with dressing rooms. She passed broken mirrors, scattered wigs, and half-torn posters announcing past shows. The silence felt heavier there, pressing in on her ears. In one dressing room, she found a rack of dusty costumes. Sequined jackets and feathered hats drooped like sad ghosts. Monica snapped a few pictures, all the while feeling a tingle on the back of her neck. As she turned to leave, a faint scuffling noise made her freeze. It sounded like something brushing against the floor. She whispered a question to the empty air, telling herself maybe a raccoon or a stray cat lived there. The noise came again, this time closer. She held her breath, stepping carefully into the hallway. A shadow flickered at the far end near the stage. It moved strangely, gliding rather than walking. Monica felt her heart thunder. She wanted to call out, but her throat tightened with panic. Gathering her courage, she moved toward the stage, trying to catch sight of whatever was there. The shadow vanished around a corner leading to a prop storage room. The door creaked when she pushed it open. A musty smell hit her face and she nearly coughed. Stacks of old chairs, broken light stands, and scattered boxes filled the room. In the far corner stood a grand piano, its cover missing, so the keys were exposed. She saw no sign of the shadow. Trying not to lose her composure, she snapped a few photos of the eerie room. Then, without warning, a single piano key rang out. The note was soft but clear, echoing in the cramped space. Monica spun around, her flashlight beam shaking across the piano. No one was there. Then another note played, like an unseen hand was testing the keys. She felt a chill race up her arms. She hurried back to the stage, not sure if she should leave or try to get one last shot. She paused in the wings, her gaze sweeping the rows of seats in the auditorium. Suddenly, she spotted a figure sitting in the front row. The person wore tattered clothing and stared straight at her. She couldn't see a face, just a dark silhouette shaped like a hunched man. Her muscles tensed. Logic told her to run, but curiosity pinned her in place. The figure slowly rose and walked up the steps to the stage. Monica gripped her camera. She wanted to scream, but fear strangled her voice. At last, she gathered the courage to click a photo. The flash lit the stage for a split second. When her eyes adjusted, the figure was gone. Yet she swore something brushed by her, as if cold fingertips grazed her shoulder. She had seen enough. Monica hurried to the exit, weaving between broken seats and debris. Every so often she glanced over her shoulder, feeling the presence lingering behind her. The old double doors groaned as she pushed them open. Her chest heaved with relief once she was outside. She packed up her camera gear as fast as she could, her hands shaking. In the following days, she tried to review the photographs. Most were normal images of dusty seats and torn drapes. But in one shot, a faint shape stood at the edge of the stage. Its eyes were two bright spots of reflected light, gazing straight at the camera. Monica stopped looking after that. She tucked the pictures away in a shoebox and never visited the theater again. Yet sometimes, Monica dreamed of the Woodland Theater. In those dreams, the stage lights flickered, the piano played itself, and that shadowy figure stood front and center, bowing to an empty crowd. She always woke with a start, her skin clammy, convinced that the performance was not over. Each morning, she recalled the cold brush on her shoulder and felt a silent call pulling her back. No matter how hard she tried, she could never forget that place or the shape that watched her from the front row. In the countryside, far from any busy roads, the old Braidwell boarding school perched on a windswept hill. Broken gates blocked the driveway, and a long-abandoned courtyard stood behind them. The main building had a tower that once rang a bell to call students to class. No bells rang anymore. Only crows circled the rooftops, cawing into the cold wind. Olivia and Marcus were cousins who liked to explore haunted spots in their spare time. They had heard rumors about Braidwell from a local historian. Decades ago, the headmaster vanished without a trace, leaving only a short note hinting at some terrible secret beneath the school's floors. The place closed down soon after. Since then, trespassers claimed they heard footsteps echoing in empty hallways or saw forms moving behind shattered windows. Few dared to stay long. Early on a gray afternoon, Olivia steered her old car past the rusted gates. Gravel crunched under the tires. Marcus peered out the window at the boarded-up windows and collapsed roof sections. They both felt a surge of excitement laced with dread. They parked near a broken fountain, its statues chipped and covered in moss. The front door hung crooked on one hinge, inviting them into darkness. The lobby floor was tiled with a checkerboard pattern, cracked and dirty. Lockers lined the walls, their doors flung open as if students left in a rush. Papers and notebooks were scattered everywhere, still waiting for someone to pick them up after all these years. Olivia clicked on her phone's flashlight, while Marcus used a small handheld light. They wanted to record everything, but were wary of the building's fragile structure. They started exploring the first-floor classrooms. Broken desks were shoved against the walls, and chalk dust coated the floors. Some chalkboards still had faded writing. half-erased lessons about math or spelling. In one corner, a teacher's desk was splintered, as if someone had taken an axe to it. Olivia snapped a few photos while Marcus flipped through a tattered textbook. He noticed strange, scrawled notes in the margins, scribbles about nightmares and shadows following students after sunset. They moved down a hallway to the cafeteria. Long tables with attached benches were shoved around haphazardly. The kitchen area was black with mold, pots and pans rusting in the sink. Despite the building's emptiness, they felt watched. A soft scraping noise made Olivia jump. She swiveled her phone's light around, catching only a glimpse of movement by the far exit. Marcus called out, but no voice answered. They inched closer, searching the corners, but found nobody. Determined to see more, they climbed a creaking staircase to the second floor. The hallway up there was pitch dark, with windows boarded shut. Olivia and Marcus coughed in the musty air. One door read, "Dormitory Wing." Inside, rows of bunk beds filled a large room. The mattresses were rotted, springs poking through the fabric. Faded posters of music bands and teen heartthrobs hung crookedly on the walls, a reminder of the young people who once slept there. A sense of sadness washed over them. Olivia wondered what it was like to leave everything behind so suddenly. Marcus opened a small closet, expecting to find old uniforms or dusty blankets. Instead, he froze. Tacked to the inside wall were black and white photos of students, each with eyes scratched out. Some pictures were marked with odd symbols that neither cousin recognized. Marcus called Olivia over, and she felt a chill run down her spine. They decided to head for the headmaster's office, hoping to find some record of the school's final days. They roamed until they reached the central tower. A narrow staircase spiraled upward, leading to a locked door. Surprisingly, the door's lock wasn't broken. Marcus used a crowbar he brought along and managed to pry it open. They entered a small office lined with bookshelves. A large desk stood by the window, covered in dust. The single window was cracked, letting a sliver of pale light spill across the floor. On the desk rested a thick journal. The cover bore the initials BW. Opening it, Olivia carefully turned pages that described the day-to-day running of the school. The writing belonged to the headmaster, who wrote about budgets and staff issues. But the tone shifted a few pages later. The headmaster complained of whispers late at night, a voice calling from underneath the floors. He mentioned hearing a bell ring at odd hours, even though the bell tower's rope had been removed. The final entry was nearly illegible, scrawled in a shaky hand. "Something wants out. I can't contain it any longer." A sudden thump echoed from outside the office. The cousins tensed. Marcus slipped the journal into his bag. They crept back down the spiral stairs, ears alert for any sound. The hallway lay silent, but the air felt thick, almost suffocating. They hurried toward the exit, but the path seemed different, as if the corridors had shifted. Doors appeared where none had been, and some hallways led to dead ends. They soon found themselves in what appeared to be a music room. Dusty instruments lay scattered about, violins without strings, a battered drum set, and a piano missing half its keys. A blackboard at the front read, "Choir Practice," with a date from decades earlier. Olivia shivered. She felt they were being herded deeper into the school. A quiet rattling came from the piano. Then an unmistakable creak came from the ceiling. Something was moving above them. They dashed into the hallway again, finally recognizing the path to the lobby. Relief grew as they saw the old checkerboard floor. Then the front door slammed shut on its own. They ran to it, yanking at the splintered wood, but it refused to budge. A cold draft blew in from behind them, and the lights on their phones flickered. Marcus banged on the door, his knuckles leaving red smears on the rotted wood. A low whisper slid through the air. It sounded like a faint echo of children's laughter, mixed with hissing. Olivia and Marcus turned to see a faint figure standing under a broken light fixture. The figure wore a tattered uniform and had long, stringy hair. Its face was pale, with eyes that seemed to absorb the light. It raised a finger to its lips, as if telling them to keep quiet. Their instincts screamed. The cousins threw themselves at the door again. This time it gave way, allowing them to stumble out into the courtyard. They sprinted to their car, hearts pounding like drums. Only when they were a mile down the road did they pull over, breathing hard. Their eyes locked in silent terror. They both felt sure the building had tried to keep them inside. And somewhere within those walls, something else now roamed free. In the days that followed, Olivia dreamed of the bell tower chiming an endless, hollow ring. Marcus couldn't shake the memory of those photos with the students' eyes scratched out. They both promised never to return to Braidwell boarding school. Yet the building remained on that lonely hill, silent but not empty, ready to claim any who dared set foot inside. Even after the dust settles and the doors slam shut, these buildings continue to whisper their dreadful tales to anyone who steps inside. Some secrets refuse to stay hidden, clawing at the edges of our reality with every dusty corridor and shadowy corner. May these stories serve as a reminder. Sometimes it's better to leave abandoned places unexplored.